Good evening, and every single time, I think Andy is still trying to figure out technology. It happened the last two shows in a row now. The second we start, he decides to drop out. But two of us are here just as he logs on again. Andy, here he is. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. As always, my name is Rory, and I'm joined by my two good friends now.
Adam and Andy.
Here we are, boys. Here we are. We're all back together again. We love to see it. And it's been a pretty mad weekend. I think really are getting close to the World Cup now. Kind of realizing it was Arsenal's last home game before December now, which is a bit mad. I was like, holy shit, yeah, we're not playing at home again now. So we're squeezing the last of the Premier League Serie A action before we switch our focus to the World Cup. But this weekend, Adam did, just as we were about to click record, send an incredible story from the man who's full of great ideas, Florentino Perez. I think we could say he's never had a bad idea, right? Never had a bad idea.
Never had a bad idea, no.
And he's Real Madrid land. Guys, what do we think? Adam, you sent it. What were your first thoughts? Real Madrid land.
It is like you think something couldn't be possible, but he makes it happen, right? If there's a dollar sign on it, he's all over that. So I just love the ideas and suggestions between us three about certain rides, right? So certain things that were linked to Real Madrid players. And I won't spoil it, but yeah, we got onto a theme there, didn't we?
I think honestly, the second I read it, I was sat on the metro and I was like, right, I need to think, come on, like rides. The only thing that was in my head was Itchy and Scratchy Land from The Simpsons. And I was like, right, I need to get that out of my head. But Andy, you came with the first one, which I really liked. What ride are you bringing to Real Madrid land?
Oh, what ride? The Gareth Bale escape room where you have to try. You're locked to the room for an hour and you've got to try to escape Madrid.
All there is marker journalists banging at the windows trying to keep you in. Right?
Yeah, there's a marker journalist on the right and there's a golf course on the left.
I like it. Adam, what ride are you bringing to Real Madrid land?
Well, I'm thinking go controversial, go for a player that doesn't deserve or doesn't feel like he should have been at a Real Madrid shirt, and that was the Thomas Gravesen. So the Thomas Gravesen punch bag, because if you remember a few years ago, he went in for Robinho for a punch a few times, and it had to be pulled apart. So you can imagine.
In hindsight, he was probably doing a good job.
Yeah, he was probably in the right. To be fair, he was probably in the right.
He was a madman at the same time. So yeah, that would suit him to the T, wouldn't it?
I love that. And to be honest, every time Thomas Gravesen at Real Madrid is mentioned, I do have to mention the story of when he got fined for getting his bollocks out and putting him on a teammate's head when he scored a goal. That story can just never be ignored. You're a madman, Thomas. It's incredible. I grew up near Blackpool, Pleasure Beach, right? And they used to have this thing called the Passage del Terror, where you got chased by out-of-work actors with chainsaws. And I thought at Real Madrid, who are the scariest characters? Pepe and Sergio Ramos. They chase you down a pitch black tunnel and try to kick the shit out of you. I think that might be the most authentic Real Madrid experience. But Florentino, please keep coming up with these great ideas. I also imagined that every ride would be exactly the same, because when you have the best thing, you don't need variety, right? You just go on the same ride over and over again for the end of time, because that's what he seems to love about the Super League. So just the same ride a million times for the rest of time. Nice. So how are we doing, boys? I've not even asked you how you are. Adam, you've been on holiday. How was your holiday?
Holiday was amazing. If those that follow me on Instagram probably saw a few snaps. But yeah, insane to cover Israel, Greece, Turkey, amongst a number of nations. It was incredible, just incredible experience. So good to be back. You may hear that I'm a bit more hoarse at the moment because I am a bit unwell. I think it's just the sudden climate change back to sunny shores of England, but we'll plow through this episode. I'm sure we'll be
exactly.
fine.
We will power on through. And Andy, you had a big weekend in the Big Smoke in London, right?
Yeah. I felt too old for it. But met with some old uni mates. Played a couple of football matches, which my knees absolutely felt afterwards. Then had a house party, and I got I'm showing now. I could tell him in my 30s because it got to about midnight. I was feeling a little bit tired, so I thought I went out onto the balcony with a little blanket and had a bit of a snooze until everyone fucked off. Then I went back inside.
Love that. Love it.
But
Love it.
yeah, and then obviously came back to Bristol yesterday with feeling a little bit hungover, but nothing too bad. And then just
Back to the office on
evening.
Monday.
Oh yeah, that was grim. I don't usually go in on the Monday, but I was looking at my alarm clock, thinking it's 6:30. You what? And then obviously the depressing sight of like obviously the clocks have gone back, and it's like 5 o'clock, and it's dark, and it's raining, and it's just like winter is here.
We're getting here. But guys, we are here to brighten up your dark winter evening, and we're going to go for some Premier League Serie A action. But quickly, we have to go for a few of the suggestions from in the chat. AFC Finners jumping in with, is there a throw a pig heads at Figo stall? Love that idea. And also, keep Julian Faubert awake. Yes, I love that idea. Great. Love it. Keep them coming in. Nice. Good. So we're going to start with the Serie A review. And I think there were a few surprising results, especially last night.
Cursed everyone.
Sorry?
You cursed everybody. It's like, like it's Halloween. I think you've done a witch.
Yes. I didn't.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
Terrible.
It's just the podcast itself, isn't it? It's a curse.
We need to talk about the Anglo-Italian curse. It is something that is happening increasingly. So we mentioned Bari. And not only have they not won since we mentioned them, they've not scored a goal since we mentioned them. And they were averaging about 3 a game before that. Then we started to finally give Lazio their kudos. We'll get on to what happened there. And we've been slowly talking up Milan, and we'll get on to what happened there. It seems like genuinely, I'm afraid to talk about any team I care about now. I'm genuinely afraid. I can't. I'm going to have to talk about Arsenal today, and I'm terrified of what could happen. What do we think, guys? Do we think what is going on? What is going on?
No, I don't think there's a curse. Don't think there's a curse. I just think it's the way the season's panning out. There'll be a lot of slip-ups like this. Like if we're going to talk later on in the show about Liverpool, who seems to be so inconsistent. So yeah, I'm sticking with that. I don't think there's a curse, but I'll pass it on to Andy.
I like the positivity, Adam. I like it.
No, I'm fully on board with the we're cursing people. I'm fully on board for that. But yeah, I think the only ones that you want the curse is Napoli. To be fair, I think they're the ones that
touch wood, touch all the wood, touch all the wood.
They've got the magic crystals knocking about.
Yeah.
I'm only thinking of magic crystals because just before I came onto the pod, I started watching Hocus Pocus 2, and it's nice. It's trippy as hell. So, but
sure you're not drunk, Andy? Still,
no. But it's a good film. And there's been a few horror shows over the weekend to keep the film going.
There definitely has. And as AFC Finners has helpfully commented, while Napoli are truly effed, then yes, quite possibly it is a city that loves superstitions, and they do believe in curses, so they're going to be doing everything they can to counteract our curse. And maybe we should start with Napoli and start with, I've got him in my Fantacalcio, and I'm so happy that I have Victor bloody Osimhen.
Oh, he's incredible, isn't he?
Andy, I'm going to let you start on him, but a hat trick within 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's it wasn't quite 20 minutes. He scored 2 goals in the first 20 minutes, and then knocked one in towards the end. But Sassuolo just weren't awake. I mean, there weren't particularly special goals, to be perfectly honest with you. It was just that classic of being in the right place at the right time. You know, it's one of those, the last person you want those kind of chances falling to was him. But no, I mean, Sassuolo for the opening, for the first half are absolutely awful. They're absolutely awful. I mean, also had 2 tap-ins essentially for the first 2 goals that he scored. Candreva, I mean, I can't stop raving about him. And he's a deceptively strong lad as well. So for the assist he got for Osimhen second, obviously the Sassuolo defense trying to barge him out the way, and he was just like, whatever, knocked it through. I think they're really, really confident. You had the left back Rui, who hadn't scored in 3 years, trying 30-yarders and nearly getting it.
Okay, have a go.
So he was having a go. And the assist for Candreva's goal was orgasmic. It really was exceptional. I mean, I think the way those two, Osimhen and him alone could probably carry them to the title. I think having Osimhen fit, I think assuming he's going to, did Nigeria qualify for the World Cup? They did. No. So there you go. I think given the lad who's had a few injury problems, to go alongside his goal scoring. I think having a month off as well, a bit like Haaland over here, I think that'll be a huge.
It'll be very welcome for him. I think very welcome for him because they have kind of been nursing him through games. I think they're constantly nursing him through games. I think that rest will be huge for him. I'm going to kind of say my piece, but Adam, what more can we say about Napoli? Kvara, absolutely two assists and a goal again, right? Where has he come from? What is he doing? I don't understand.
I just think Spalletti, we have to give praise to Spalletti. He's got the right elements now. He's got the right kind of team spirit going on. And I think what's bonkers is me hearing stories about De Laurentiis considering bringing Cristiano Ronaldo to that mix. I mean, that is just like a bonfire straight away. It's just causing like issues straight away by doing that. But let's just give a huge amount of praise for Napoli in the way they're playing. I mean, the fact that they are able to take off these players with 65 minutes, and still bring on quality off the bench. I mean, last season probably would have said they haven't got the kind of strength and depth, but this season they've been incredible. And I mean, long may it continue. We've been, as a pod, wanting them to have the Scudetto title. It actually looks like it may happen. But look, it's going to be dependent on what form they carry on going into from January onwards. That's where it's going to be critical. Yeah. I think the way Conte's kind of trying to do that Spurs analogy, which probably won't work, but it probably will be key for Napoli. So, like I say, I think they may have to prioritise a few cup competitions in favour of the Scudetto, but that's where I would probably say that's more worthwhile for not only Napoli fans, but just generally the whole club as well, because that money will be well needed as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's with you're right. Like we've talked about the depth and the strength in depth and stuff, and it's mad because it feels like we've said it before, but last year, if Osimhen was injured, then Napoli were fucked. And now he just feels like a bonus. Now he just feels like an extra, and you're like, oh, if they didn't have but they have got him. They have got Osimhen, and it's on top of everything else. And it feels like, now he's an extra, not like a key ingredient. If you know what I mean, they can still get by without him, but they've got him, so they'll be more than fine. And I just think his performances are he's just ruthless at the minute, absolutely ruthless. He's obviously absolutely loves it there. You can tell that all the players there are loving playing for that club. There's players there whose careers, like Politano, not many people thought his career was really going to go anywhere. He's like, not go anywhere, that's a bit rude, but after Inter, they were like, where's he going to go? Where's it?
Yeah,
and he's
exactly.
Arguably playing better football than he ever did at Inter. And there's just so many of these players, like Lobotka, who was lost for a while, has now become one of the best midfielders in the league.
And Ginso as well. Like he's regular starter for him. You wouldn't have imagined that back when he was in England. So,
well, no, exactly. And this is down to Spalletti's coaching, and this is down to like building a team, building a team ethic. And look, I think if they can keep certain players fit, and they've still got Anguissa to come back, right? He's not even playing yet.
But without Osimhen, they've got Raspadori, who's just come up a level. They've got Simeone off the bench, who seems to be just bringing in the play. Zelinski, we haven't even mentioned, for example.
Lozano's got a bit of consistency as well now, isn't he? It's
well, they've now. I think it's now 16 different players have scored for them this season, which is
it's insane.
Mental, absolutely mental. Because in the Champions League, Østegård, is it? He'd barely played. He scored in the Champions League. And I was like, who's this guy? Where's he come from? So it feels like they literally cannot stop it at the minute. A massive, massive win against Sassuolo. Sassuolo definitely were and are quite accommodating at times. They do love to concede a goal. But an impressive performance from Napoli. Elsewhere on the Saturday, the other standout games we had Should we talk about Atalanta? Lookman continuing with another absolutely the level of composure behind this goal. I was really impressed by. I'm going to start with you, Adam. Atalanta against a difficult game. It was a difficult game.
Yeah.
Empoli,
it's not going to be straightforward. Empoli probably at the wrong end of the table. Let's put it that way. They can play a lot better than that, showing. That said, as you've alluded to, Lookman just looks like he's assured. He's got confidence, which is the key behind it, because Gasperini is basically hot on cold. He'll tell you straight whether he likes you or he doesn't, right? And he's been brought in to kind of develop Lookman. Lookman just seems a cut above the rest right now. And I think that's the difference in terms of instilling that confidence, trusting a player who has that. And Gasperini seems to always do that. He always seems to get the best out of players that have been probably shown a door at other places and not given that kind of love. But behind Kvara, it's been shown that Ademola Lookman is probably the most prolific player in Serie A in terms of signings this season. So it goes to show what a contribution he's made, not just to Atalanta, but to Serie A as well. So he's done incredibly well. We have to say Pasalic as well in this game had another fantastic game. He's been one on the door that I shouted a few weeks ago about for the Croatian squad, and Cop Miners as well. He's been doing quite well. But there's so many players in that Atalanta squad, a bit like Napoli, that are starting to play really well. Andy mentioned about those defenders a few weeks ago, and you've just got even Hattenball, for example, turning up right now. Merla, who's obviously on the cusp of the Denmark squad as well. So there's a lot of players there that are looking to get the form at the right moment now, and that's great for Atalanta because I didn't expect them to be in this position. So fair play to them.
I know, and it's like a huge win for them considering the context of the weekend. It was a really important win for them, especially as the penalty was missed as well, which was an opportunity maybe for Empoli to get back in the game. Empoli started pushing, and I thought, okay, Atalanta, this is your test here. And they're showing a bit more maturity. Like, Andy, you've talked about it before, but their defence, they've still only conceded 8 goals. This isn't something we often linked with Atalanta in the past.
No, I think they've learned to adapt. I think in the knowledge that I think maybe because you can't play with that same intensity with the fixtures so close together, I think what you're seeing is a little bit more pragmatism. A little bit, rather than going hell for leather as entertaining as that is a bit more right. We've got to last from start to finish this season. And obviously with Atalanta having a poor season last year, I don't think they're involved in Europe this year, are they? So no. They've got the opportunity to be able to play their best 11 week in, week out. I think, and that, with having less games, I think could help them with the top 4 finish. Especially when you factor in the struggles of, your struggles of Juve, Milan. Both Milan clubs haven't quite hit that level of consistency just yet. So I think it's as good a time as any for them at the moment.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that they're shifting away from because Zapata and Muriel were always so key for them. And when they were injured, when they weren't scoring, you're like, okay, Atalanta have got nothing.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, now they've got a few options. And even players like Borga, who I'm a big fan of, still hasn't scored for Atalanta. It's a bit mad. And you're like, wow, come on. This guy was incredible at Sassuolo. But I think they're very quickly able to address issues. And they're very, their recruitment is so good that a problem is never really a problem for long. I feel like they always have a player where okay, we'll just get that player, or they'll bring someone through and you're like, okay, they're always managed to fill holes in the squad and sort problems quite quickly. And we're seeing them evolving, definitely. I think you're right, Gasperini is getting a bit more pragmatic and a bit more okay, we can't sustain this for a season. We've learned it over the past 5 years that it falls apart at some point. But this was a really just sensible win against a decent Empoli side who, Adam, you're right, should be higher up the table, I think. They're much better than their position suggests, I think. But a huge win for Atalanta there. Still on the Saturday, I think we're going to go with Juventus. Guys, there's always reason for hope. No matter what situation you're in, there's always reason for hope. And Juve have managed to find, They've been there the whole time. They've managed to play some young players that are showing a little bit of promise. Now, one of them is another English player who's playing abroad who looks crazy exciting, who we're going to get onto. But first, we're going to talk about, only because he's got a great name as well, Fagioli, whose name in English means beans. It's a great name, Mr. Beans. And Adam, what have you seen of Fagioli, or Mr. Beans, as we're now going to have to call him?
Mr. Bean, yeah.
What have you seen of him so far, and what's impressed you with him?
I think he reminds me a lot of Del Piero, dare I say it, and that's a play he has actually advocated as his idol. A lot of people have kind of likened him to Dybala as well. It's still very early stages. I mean, that was his first appearance on Saturday against Lecce. But he has got a fantastic touch on him. We talked about Moretti earlier in the season, but Fagioli just looks another player that seems to have this kind of confidence that he can just pull it off. And it just baffles me that Allegri isn't going for the youth right now. Why is he kind of leaving it right now? He sent off Ravella, for example, to Monza, whereas actually he's probably a better answer than, dare I say it, Paredes, Rabiot. I mean, they could really build a really good squad. And this is the frustrating thing, I think, for Juventus fans now, is they're starting to see these players coming through right now. Probably Nedved is kicking himself because he wants someone to develop and nurture these players and get them playing, because he sees them as the future for this club. I mean, a lot of money has been spent. That's the only unfortunate thing, which I don't think they can recoup right now. And yeah, it's going to be tough going into kind of January transfer window period, because I think they're going to have to shift off more bodies than they care to. But yeah, I mean, fantastic to see these players. And I was going to mention, obviously, Samuel Illing Jr., who they bought in from Chelsea's youth academy. So again, another,
of course, every exciting young player,
right?
Every exciting young player
at some point.
Yeah, from Chelsea, and then gets good somewhere else. But Andy, I saw him come on in the Champions League, and straight away I thought, oh my God, who is this guy? And 2 assists now in his first 2 games, right? And just completely changed the energy of Juventus. Is this another player that England can be excited about? I'm pretty excited about him.
I mean, we'll probably Gareth Southgate will probably ignore him, not know who he is, and he just either won't. I'm not sure if he's eligible elsewhere, but he'll find a Scottish grandmother down the back of a sofa, and he'll have 50 caps by the time he's 25. No, I think like with obviously with Lookman and a couple of the Scottish lads as well playing over Henderson, and obviously
Hendry,
Doig as well, I think.
And you had obviously Aaron Hickey. I think Italy is becoming a place where you can get opportunity. And I think with Allegri, I think he's stuck a bit between a rock and a hard place. I think he wants to use experienced players to get him out the hellhole he's in. But I feel like one way to get fans back on side is if the results aren't going your way, but if you play some youngsters who are trying to do something, people will back you for that, because they're not going to get on the backs of a 17, 18, 19-year-old typically. But when you've got seasoned professionals underperforming week in, week out, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. I mean, I still think signing Paredes when they had so much unnecessary midfielders as it was, and Di Maria was just a vanity signing to keep people happy.
I think, look, as is often the case, we've seen it at our own clubs, Andy, where often when you're stuck in a rut with a bang average squad, turning to the youth system is not a bad idea. You've got players who are excited, they want to fight for the shirt, all those cliches, they're not scared, etc., etc. And I think this is another sign now that Juve need to do this. I think you're on a hide into nothing anyway this season. If you don't qualify for the Champions League with those old players that are just winding people up, you're only going to make it worse. If you get close and don't qualify, but with young players, people will be more patient. People will forgive you a bit more. And I think, I would be excited for Juve to try and do that. All I know is that it's not very Juve to bring through youth projects. I can't think of many players who have actually come through the youth academy at Juve and gone on to perform a lot. I think Chiellini maybe, but I kind of think he was brought in.
He was brought in,
yeah. The only one I can think of really is Del Piero. So they're not really. It's not really much of the club's ethos, really. But there's some exciting players there. Hopefully, they get a start. Fagioli, Miretti, and Illing Jr. and you're right, Ravella at Monza all look like bloody good players. So hopefully Illing Jr. gets a few more chances because in the Champions League, he genuinely, the second he came on, I was like, whoa, who is this guy? He was actually running and looked like he gave a shit, which did make him stand out. But yeah, exciting times. Another young English player going abroad to get the opportunities. Hopefully we'll see more of him in Serie A. They did, in fact, beat Lecce 1-0. Quite fortunate. I thought Lecce weren't terrible. It was a bloody boring game, I'll tell you that. But Lecce were a little bit unlucky. We're going to move on to, I think, well, to wrap up the Saturday, we've got to talk about Inter and Fiorentina was Sunday. Barella, Andy, you wanted to talk about Barella.
I just feel like we need a Nico Barella appreciation moment.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't think I've seen a touch and finish that emphatic for a long, long time. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, especially to run at pace, take it, get it perfectly in air, not break stride, and just absolutely slam it without a care in the world is absolutely incredible. And I think what you're seeing now is Barella's already a fantastic player, but he's now adding a few more goals to his game. You know, he's got 5. He's got 5 in 12 this season. Where if you put it into context, he only got 7 in the previous 3 seasons. And like I said, goals are not everything. That was never primarily his game. But the fact he's getting up the pitch more, adding that makes him an even more complete player. Which is, all the benefit for Italy in terms of the Italian national team and for Inter as a whole. Because I don't think he strikes you as the kind of guy that would be massively keen to leave Italy.
No, I'd be surprised if he left Inter. Honestly, I'd be surprised if he left. Inter. So
with that in mind, I think although they'd be interested in, because I think he'd suit, certainly in England with the star he's got. But yeah, I think
I'd have him at Arsenal in an absolute heartbeat. Jesus Christ, I absolutely love him as a player. But I do also love him as a person. After the goal, the first thing he did was run over to Lukaku and apparently said to him, "That's how you control the ball." Because they all laugh at him in training, which I did really, really like. He's a bit of a lad, Barella. I think everyone remembers the picture of him after the Euros. He's meeting the British Prime
he's got a drink in his hand.
Glasses, beer, massively hungover. Like, he absolutely loves it, Nicola. Absolutely loves it. What a guy. But Inter, in full form, Adam. Inter back. I think they're starting to look good again.
They do. And the interesting thing is, all linked with Çalhanoğlu, who is now adapting a different role. So Brozovic obviously being off, so he's taken that role, which is seemingly working for Inter. It seems to be working better than maybe Asllani was kind of primed for that position. And that's the interesting thing. It seems like Mkhitaryan's now turning up for this team 11, and you're seeing it seems like a lot more just gone down by the wayside. They seem a lot more confident on the ball. They seem like they're a bit more direct. I don't know what you can credit, but Barella's form is obviously part of it. Martinez in the last few weeks has been good. Bastoni, for example, looks a lot more stronger at the back. And obviously Onana being in goal, you haven't got flappy Handanovic at the back. So there's a lot more confidence in that back line, and it's like steaming. You can see the whole team seems to be behind this momentum right now. Maybe at the wrong time, though, because, only a few days before the World Cup starts, and now they could do with a more game run. But that said, I'm sure Simeone Inzaghi is loving the facts about getting form, getting these points on board, and they're not that far off from the top 3 now. That's the most promising thing. One thing though on this game, Stankovic obviously returning back, he also embraced Barella at the full-time whistle, and he also praised Lukaku because apparently Lukaku has taken his sons under his wing, gave some advice and helped him. So a lot of love in for Lukaku despite Barella's joke to him after that goal. But,
I love that. I just love that they're willing to take the piss out of him in public. So I think I do like Ron, but I think every so often he probably needs taking down a peg or two. But it is genuinely hard to estimate how much Stankovic is loved at Inter. Like, they absolutely worship him. He will be manager of that club one day. Like, it is going to happen. It was great to see him back there. We have to say the Kurva Nord were like very quiet this week on purpose. The head of the Kurva Nord died this weekend. It was like a huge, really strange atmosphere at the stadium, but they managed to show their love to Stankovic. And I think you have to give credit to Simone Inzaghi. He looked like he was maybe on the way out, and he's adapted his tactics, and he's coached this team through that rough patch, got them back on a run. And like you said with Çalhanoğlu, I don't think anybody really saw him as that holding midfielder kind of role. I didn't see him being able to do that.
But I think dropping Handanovic finally,
that definitely helped.
I mean, he got to a point where having every time we talked about an Inter game, it's like, Handanovic should have done better. I think the last time they lost against Roma, he was in goal, and again, you're thinking, really?
This guy still. Well, Tommy used to always say, "I might as well have a broom in goal. Just lean it up in the goal." And like, I had an exchange with friend of the show, Uncle Sharma, this weekend, and he was just talking about how nice it is to see an Inter keeper coming out and catching crosses. And I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, damn, I've not seen that at the San Siro since I got here. Like, it is mad the difference he's made to that team. But Inter creeping back up, and they will be in the conversation post-World Cup. It was vital that they got back in form. They now have won their last 4, looking good at the San Siro. Going to Sunday, there's only really 2 games we can talk about. Adam, I'm going to let you choose. Which game are we going for first?
Let's start off with Lazio and Salernitana, because that was a huge result. But we obviously have to talk about the other goal of the season contender, which was from Candreva. He equalised for Salernitana, and
what a touch!
I think he's 37-year-old. Just like, he's doing better than me at that stage. To be fair, just to control and dink it over the goalkeeper. Magnificent. I mean, if that was in the Premier League, we'd be lauding this. We'd be lauding this because of his age, the grace, just incredible. Sampdoria, how stupid do they feel now that they let him go on a free transfer? Given the performances from last season, he was incredible last season for them.
He was great for him last season.
He was great. So that was baffling for me. But incredible result for Salernitana, given the circumstances. Lazio obviously don't have Immobile right now, and they had benched Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, comes on, gets the yellow card, so he's going to be missing for the Derby Capitale even. So it's incredible, but Lazio, a former self of themselves, in terms of their performance, it was not great from Lazio. Again, I feel they're going to yo-yo this season. They're going to.
This is what we've kind of said about Lazio before we cursed them. We've kind of said they're like hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, right? I have to say about the Candreva goal, it gave me massive Berbatov vibes. I could really see Berbatov scoring that goal. Just the silkiest touch and the arrogance to just knock it over. I was like, oh, what a beautiful goal. I really, really enjoyed that. But I wanted to also talk about Dia, who has come into Salernitana and been absolutely unbelievable. They brought him in from Lens, I think, in France, and he's originally on loan. Villarreal. He was in France. He's on loan from Villarreal. He got 5 goals and 5 assists in La Liga last year. He's already got, I think it's 5 goals and 2 assists this year for Salernitana. He started really well, and I just think this is a team that looks very comfortable in the division. All of a sudden, they look from where they were last Christmas, right? So I was looking at the table. At this point last year, after 12 games played, they had 7 points. At this point now, after 12 games, they have 16 points, and they're in 10th place, and they've won 3 of their last 5. Like, this is a team that has been turned around very quickly. The business they brought in, it wasn't mad business. No, they brought in a few players. Sensible. They brought in Lars Bahinen's son, for Premier League fans. And they brought in a few just steady players like Candreva, a bit of experience. And they just look really comfortable and like a team that can surprise people. And look, Lazio, like we said, they are hot and cold, but what a performance from Salernitana. For Lazio, it's just concerning. And it's just as you think you're getting momentum. So before this game, they unbeaten in 4, won 3 of the last 4, and it just sums up that kind of inconsistency we see with Lazio so often. Now they're going to win next weekend, obviously.
Of course they are, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like this was just a huge win for Salernitana. How do we feel about Lazio, Andy? Are they missing Immobile too much? Milinkovic-Savic not starting is a big one.
I think there's just lacking consistency. It's not even between matches; it's between games.
Yeah.
Like against Salernitana, they started off really well. Also see one of the worst one-on-one misses I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I mean, if that happened last played FIFA or something, I'd be throwing the controller at the wall. It was bad. But that's the thing, though. I think, unlike with the teams around them, they need their key personnel to perform. They don't have the depth to be able to withstand a few, drops in form. They're not the team that can win ugly on the basis. And I think that's what they're really lacking. And I think that's ultimately what that's what's going to probably mean they settle for in the Europa League places between like 5th and 7th or 8th. Maybe that's probably where they'll end up. But they still, at the end of the day, they have still won 3 out of their past 5 games. Like they've only lost twice this season, so I think yesterday could just go down to a really, really bad day at the office, and you'll see what happens with them. Obviously, you've got the Derby Capital this weekend. That's a massive game for them. They've also got, before the break for the World Cup, their last game is Juve away. So they've got 2 massive games. Sandwiched in between Monza, which, let's be honest, that's a must-win for them, given the other games they've got happening. So it's a big couple of weeks for them. Because if they win, 2 out of those 3 games, or at least hold Roma and Juve, even to a draw, they've not really
good
lost.
Result.
They've not lost. They've not lost anything. They can sort of consolidate themselves as long as they beat Monza. So I think they'll look at it as a fight. All right, they've had a couple, a bit of a dodge before we get Salernitana, but we do have a chance to recover over the next couple of weeks. And with Roma and Juve, having their own issues. I think
2 very inconsistent teams as well. Very inconsistent.
It's just a collection of inconsistent teams. That we'll probably both need a win, but end up getting a draw. So
typical Sarri ball all over.
I think so. But we do need to very quickly talk about Zaccagni as well. Unbelievable season he's having. He's now got 5 goals and 4 assists for Lazio. In 12 games, in 16 games, 5 goals, 4 assists. Absolutely killing it. A player that I'm not sure people expected to do so well when he came back from Verona, but having a very, very good season. Nice. I think we're now going to go to the last Serie A game, which was the big surprise of the evening. They couldn't beat Juventus, but they did Juventus a favour by beating Milan. And it is, of course, Torino 2, Milan 1. I did not see this coming, Adam. What happened? I thought Milan were finally getting a bit of form together, but they've really dropped the ball there.
Yeah, no, Torino, just a mention about the crowd. They look so up for this match. Before the game kicked off, I've never seen Torino's fans go this ecstatic for a match. They were so up for this. Juric seemed fired up for this match. And it could have gone the other way, in fairness. Leao had 2 chances in the first 5 minutes. He flapped at one. So if he'd taken one of those chances, you could have seen a different result. But as it was, fantastic ball through from a free kick. Gigi heads it. I mean, there seems to be something in the middle of that kind of defence where they're not comfortable at the moment, Milan. So Gabbia, for example, I've never really rated him in the last few matches. I think he needs to be dropped.
Yeah, I don't think either is particularly fans of him. I think we spoke about previously, and it's a bit...
Yeah, exactly. But then Kalolu should have maybe done better in that situation. Anyway, minute later, Miranchuk then scores. Tatarusanu, again, shouldn't be playing in goal, I'm afraid. But again, fantastic goal taken by Miranchuk. And to be fair, Torino just looked like they controlled the match. They controlled it. Given the caliber of players, the difference in levels between Torino and Milan, it was incredible to see how well drilled Torino were. They controlled it. This is something that they missed in the Juventus match, which is a shame, really. But yeah, they almost gave it away. I don't know what the hell Milinkovic-Savic was doing, coming out, letting Junior Messias tap in essentially the goal to give Milan a glimmer of hope. But given that, you know, they still had a 15-minute spell. They defended really well, because I can't tell you of any chances that Milan had in that last sort of 50 minutes, even into injury time where it should have been 5 minutes. They played an extra 3 minutes still after that because, for some reason, there was a ball that was brought onto the pitch and they played on with another ball. So they had to kick the ball out to sides, and apparently 2 minutes had to be given on. But regardless, fantastic result for Torino. They're well deserved that. And they're in ninth position, which fantastic for Torino.
It's crazy to think, because their start to the season was chaotic to say the least, with the manager fighting the director of football and all sorts of shenanigans going on behind the background. It looked like it was not going to be a happy season for Torino, but they've still got a little bit of quality in that team. They've still got those odd players where you get excited about. Moranchuk is a very, very good player. Voivoda is a very good player. They've got some exciting players there. I think for Milan, we're kind of seeing towards the end of games, they do run out of ideas. I feel like they don't have that other way. Once it's not... And it's weird because I think last season, was it towards the end of last season, they kept coming from behind, or they were winning by one goal. And you're like, okay, they're finding a way. At the minute, it feels like they're not able to find that way. And when Leao misses chances like he did at the beginning, you were like, well, this is definitely going to come back and bite you in the arse here, because you're not that... The team doesn't have that level of belief, I suppose it had at the end of last season. It just feels like they've run out of ideas. And it was fairly comfortable for Torino towards the end. It wasn't as nervous as I expected it to be.
I was just going to say, Brahim Diaz, which you guys mentioned last week with Piero, he had a really ominous game. He was marked out of the game.
There's another curse.
There you go. The curse continues. But yes, to be fair, I couldn't see any of the midfield really take a hand of this game. Even Tonali seems a bit quieter than usual. They had to bring on Benacer. And again, maybe they're missing that kind of impact in the middle of the park. I don't know. It's hard to say. Leao, again, hit and miss again this game.
He comes in and out of games. I feel like he comes in and out of games. And again, last year, he hit a point where everything he hit was going in. And I just feel like now it's just a little bit up and down, like the team, right? But huge win for Torino, which for the table means that Napoli are now 5 points clear at the top of the table. Only Atalanta keeping slight pace with them. Napoli still unbeaten. 10 wins and 2 draws. Insanity. Atalanta second on 27 and Milan third on 26. It all gets a bit tight then, all the way down to 7th. Juventus is 22 points. And sadly, Udinese are kind of finding themselves getting pushed out back where they belong now. A few draws, not quite getting the goals they got before, and they found themselves down in 8th. But a big weekend in Serie A. A great weekend. But now... it's time to go to the Premier League. And we can only really start with Leeds. What a result at Anfield. Andy, do you want to take us through this performance?
Before going into the game, Jesse Marsh was under a lot of pressure. I think we said on the last live show that the last thing you need when you're under pressure is a game away against Liverpool. But I think that's that was the kind of performance overall that you only put in when you're behind the manager 100%. You know, if there's a bit of dressing room, infighting and all that kind of stuff, you don't put in that performance. But I think from Liverpool's point of view, I think a few what are started to become quite familiar failings at this point. The defending for the opening goal for Rodrigo was just atrocious all round. It's the sort of stuff that they weren't doing, even a year ago, to be honest. And they're in a bit of a tough spot because I know, like, for example, Gomez was getting a lot of praise after the result against Manchester City, but he's sort of gone back to default again. I've always felt with Gomez, he's okay as a rotational option, but if you've got the ambitions of competing at the arse end of the trophies. I just don't think Gomez is quite at a level. I know it sounds weird to say because he's already technically won the Premier League and the Champions League and that kind of stuff, but I feel like the injuries have held him back and he hasn't really improved. And I think at midfield, especially, they're looking so lightweight. I think Fabinho looks quite heavy.
He's not even that old, Fabinho.
No,
watching him play, and this is going to sound rude, but watching him play, I thought he was like 35.
Yeah,
and then I was like, the guy's 29. Like,
well, there's been some, we don't some conspiracy thereries. There was a picture that came out of when he was at Real Madrid.
Is it a Carnu job? Is like,
I'm
32.
Yeah, there was a picture that came out where he was at 19 when he was at Real Madrid at the time. I completely forgot when he even played for Real Madrid. And you're looking at it thinking, I don't want to get into these conspiracy theories, but
that is not a 19-year-old. Yeah. Well, you're right. The midfield has aged 5 years in 6 months. It's insane. Like, and they were just completely outrun this game. I felt like you're right about Jesse Marsch under horrific amount of pressure. Those players absolutely battled for him. And I feel like what I really like is that when Leeds play how he wants them to play, they're very entertaining. I don't know what you think, Adam, but I really enjoyed watching that style of football. It's quick, it's frenetic, it's like passionate, it's tackling, it's like exciting. If Patrick Bamford could hit a barn door, it might be a bit more exciting. But what do you think about Leeds' full flow? It's great to see, right?
Yeah, I think he's evolved that Bielsa style of football, a bit more pragmatic at times, I think. But maybe also he's got the players with him that are pushing Leeds a bit more as well. So he's got a bit more youthful players that are giving a bit more energy to that style of play. And Notto, which I'm sure you're going to rave about in a minute.
He was next on my list. Yeah.
Aronson, which I raved in Salzburg, for example. They've got some really interesting players. He knows a few of them from his Red Bull days. So he's brought in players that he trusts, which is the important thing. So yeah, it's interesting that he started to get momentum now at the time that he needs, really. Like you've highlighted, though, it's the goals that are going to really be critical for him. So I suspect a striker is on that list for January. But whether he gets someone that is slightly better than Bamford, because Bamford has some benefits, right? We've talked about it a few weeks ago where he can chase down balls. He can make it really awkward. I think he showed it against Arsenal where
he changed the game against Arsenal. He completely changed the game against Arsenal. Genuinely, like we couldn't handle him at all. And I think Bamford's one of those interesting ones. I feel like him and Bielsa are one of those player managers that just got the best out of each other. If you know what I mean, Bielsa managed to get the best out of him, and I don't know if it'll work with another manager. I hope it does because I like him. I like him as a player.
Plus, he has come back from like long-term injury as well.
He has. Yeah.
He barely played last season. And I think he's one of those players where he needs a run of games to get himself back on. So I think he's still capable of knocking out double figures this season if he stays injury-free. I think it's just a bit of patience. And unfortunately, I think the only thing that I feel bad criticising him for, but I think Leeds fans, I know it's easier said than done because I'm not a Leeds fan, so maybe I'm completely out of touch, but we do need to eventually move past the Bielsa era. I know how much of a connection they had to the guy, but it feels like, they have less patience because it's Jesse Marsch in the dugout, not Marcelo Bielsa. And I think, because they turned on him quite a bit. I
also think
game.
8 games without a win, Bielsa was under the same pressure after eight games without a win. I just feel like I know what you mean. They weren't emotionally ready to get rid of Bielsa, and I think they're still not emotionally ready to get rid of him. But I think the Leeds fans I've kind of interacted with or that I read online and stuff, they all seem fairly level-headed and they know the level they're at. They're going to be fighting relegation. They need a few more years before they can get like stable. But you went onto it, Adam, with the young players, and I think Aronson is incredibly exciting. What a player that guy is. Genuinely, like, really technically very good, very exciting. But we've talked about an exciting young Englishman in Italy. Now it's an exciting young Italian in England. Now, people who've watched the Azzurri will know how exciting this guy is. He made his debut for Italy in his first couple of games. He got a goal and assist, changed games. And the second he came on, I was like, here we go. Liverpool are in trouble now because he is just going to be like a grenade thrown on that wing. The last thing you want at 70 minutes, whatever it was, if you're a knackered fullback, is that guy running at you. And he just straight away got that space, got the ball across the box. Unbelievable ball. And a great finish from Somerville. I called him Summerfield on Twitter, but Somerville, I know his name now. A lovely little first touch and finish to secure the win. But another player who stood out for me, and he was from Salzburg as well, I think, is the centre-back Christensen. He had an unbelievable game. I feel like he stopped everything that came through, fully committed. He had like the cut on his head. He looks terrifying. I was like, this guy is a serious defender. And I feel like, maybe that summed up the kind of grit and the support that he has. Like we said, that those players do want him there. The players are playing for him. And that is like a result that could really be a landmark for Leeds. Now it's key that they go for their next game and they follow that up. Because if you don't follow that up, then it's a complete waste. They've got Bournemouth at home. They have to get a win there now to be like, right, we've got past this. If they go and lose that now, you might as well have lost it. If you know what I mean? It's like you need the momentum. But the away end, the Leeds away end.
Oh, the absolute limbs, wasn't it?
God.
It was just like limbs.
I was like, I want to be there now. I just want to be in that away end. It would be so much fun. Jesus Christ. It looked like the best place on earth to be. I really, really did enjoy that. That away end at Liverpool is great for limbs as well. Because it's right next to the goal. It's always great for limbs, I think.
I think Leeds are also, I think Bournemouth is a massive, massive game for them. It's at home. The two league games they've got after is obviously they've got Tottenham away before which is their last game for the World Cup. And then when they come back, they've got a nice, easy game against Manchester City at home.
Oh God!
So it's that is a tough
Haaland fresh off his holidays.
Oh yeah, it'd be an interesting return as well for his old band as well.
Yeah.
And Manchester City, and I know he's got a little bit of a connection to Yorkshire as well. So we call it the Haaland Derby.
The Haaland Derby, exactly.
The Haaland Derby. That would be a fun one to watch. But 3 points against Bournemouth takes them above Bournemouth, above West Ham and Everton, and gives them a little bit of a buffer potentially against the likes of Leicester, who are starting to, although they're still in the relegation zone, they've got starting to get a bit more momentum. I think getting an extra 3 points for the World Cup, I think, will buy Jesse Marsch a bit of time, because if they lose against Bournemouth and they've got 6 weeks to stew on it, it's going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah, they've got a real and they still do have they have a game in hand on the teams around them. That really has lifted them. Okay, it is crazy close down there. Only 4 points separate 19th and 12th. So it's crazy close down there, but it has lifted Leeds a little bit, giving them a bit of breathing room. Good to see. Beautiful win. Really heartwarming post-match interview from Somerville as well. Just seems like a really nice kid. It was the day before his 21st birthday. Beautiful scenes. Beautiful, beautiful scenes. Sorry, Liverpool. Absolute disgrace of a performance from Liverpool. Genuinely disgraceful performance. I just wanted to give Leeds their flowers more than just talk about how bad Liverpool were. We're going to move on in the Premier League, and I'm going to take my time. We've had Lord Bentner, but now Lord Nelson finally has returned. After 2 years, 3 years in the wilderness, he was sent out to Holland. He comes on and he scores as many goals as Jadon Sancho has in 8 minutes. And I love it. He's right back.
I love the unnecessary strays there.
There's a little dig there. There's a little dig there. A little dig there. But what a performance from Arsenal. 5-0. It feels like forever since we've actually battered a team. It felt like, honestly, I was like,
It's Nottingham Forest.
Who just beat Liverpool when we went 1-0 up.
Who are bottom of the table and get on a minus 20 goal difference.
I'm still taking it because we have not battered a team in a very long time. And even when it was 1-0, I was like, okay, boys, right, now just stop piling the goals in. But we didn't. Half time, it was 1-0. And I was like, friggin' hell, we did this against Southampton. We couldn't kill the game off. And we're going to end up conceding an equaliser. I've seen this game before. But the second half, we came out and within 10 minutes, we scored 4 goals. Beautiful. Job done. I just felt like it was a real... you could see the tension in the Arsenal team at the beginning. You could see that they were We hadn't lost, but we'd had a few disappointing performances and results. And it just felt like you saw them get their confidence back as the game went on. Nottingham Forest were awful. They didn't do anything. They didn't pressure. They didn't run. They didn't tackle. They did tackle. They injured fucking Bukayo Saka within 2 minutes. So good work. I think all they did was try and kick us off the field. But I think it was a really, really disappointing performance from Forest. After what we'd seen against Liverpool, the commitment and the cohesiveness, the togetherness, it just wasn't there. But what did you think of the game, Adam? What were your impressions of both Forest and Arsenal?
If we start off with Forest, I think maybe it's too much to expect this team to kind of deliver performance after performance. I think that was really telling in this game, because it seems like Steve Cooper's started to deploy a different style of tactics from the beginning of this season. And it's just not going to happen when you've got players like Steve Cook. No offense to the guy, but he's not going to be able to do it. I mean, he lost Martinelli for that first goal. So, I mean, it's very hard. I know they spoke about it on Match of the Day about the fact that it's very hard for a defender to react. But yeah, someone that is a bit more like maybe pace about them would probably still get something on the end of that. So potentially stop and block that. It's going to be tough running. I think it's back to the drawing boards with Nottingham Forest. I'm afraid there's going to be certain games like this that are just going to have their hands up and say, we're not going to win this game. Let's just focus on the games that we need to win, which they should have done at the beginning of this season, it has to be said. Arsenal, great to see them back to winning ways after, like you say, a few disappointing results. I think I'd be more concerned about Saka at this moment in time about that injury. Doesn't look too great. I remember him trying to take a volley, I think, after he got injured, and he didn't look right.
No.
He just didn't look right. Not great for England fans as well, because you're thinking he's a player on form, probably would be in that 11 right now. And
I feel like there's
a big doubt now.
There's a thing with Saka where, and I know it's probably recency bias, and because I watched Arsenal so much, like I watch all of the games, but it feels like Saka, it's just free season to kick him. Every game he gets booted up in the air, and he never gets put. People never get booked, but he gets booked for diving a lot. And I think there is genuinely that, and there's been a few Arsenal fans talking about it where they've been like, okay, this Southampton game was a point he got booted about 3 or 4 times from their wing backs, and it's like I know he's a tricky winger, but he's being fouled consistently. And when he did try and raise it in the past, Gerrard was like, I've had surgery, I've got pins in my knees, you just need to get on with it. Is that the attitude we need, really? Like, oh, I'm living in pain, so you should as well. Like, I feel like there's genuinely a thing of like Saka just gets beaten up every single game. So this has been coming for a while. And when he went down, I was like, that was his first touch. The guy just went straight through the back of him and just booted his ankle. And you're like, ref, come on. I know it's like, you don't want to give a yellow card straight away, but that is a foul. I always remember the one for Crystal Palace. Was it MacArthur? Just booted his standing leg and got nothing. And it's like, it happens all the time with him. And I don't know what it is, but from what I've seen today, it's not as bad as we kind of feared. Arteta says he could be back for the Chelsea game. I'd be tempted to just rest him and be like, okay, let's not risk him. But yeah, it took a bit of the shine off the game, I'll be honest, because we were all just like, oh, God, if he's injured, then that could be a big miss for us. I don't know how we replace him. But a good performance, back to winning ways. If someone had said to me, by the end of October, you could still be top of the league, I would have bitten their bloody hand off. So I don't care where this ends. It is going bloody well, and I'll take it. We're going to move on from Arsenal because I realised we could end up here forever. And we're going to give you Andy Rashford. He has reached 100 goals for Manchester United. And I could have sworn that was Ronaldo flying through the air as he headed that ball.
Yeah, it was a cracking header. And I've given Rashford a little bit of shit over the past 18 months. I think he'd had a bit of a rough time. I think maybe there was some off-the-pitch stuff that we don't know about that was affecting him. But he was a player badly out of confidence, even at the start of this season. But overall, though, for the academy lad to come through, score 100 goals, for his boyhood club. Like, that is incredible. He's still only 24 years old, so he could
as well,
he could feed. I know people, and I've mentioned it before, that maybe he isn't the most clinical finisher, and there's still bits of his game to work on. But the fact he's got 100 goals and he's not even like 25 is still a very good achievement. That's he's played. That's still a good 1 in 3 more or less.
And only about 20 of them are against Arsenal, so it's not bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember in his debut against.
Mate, that was horrible.
The only reason he played was I think Will Keane at the time was injured, so he came.
God damn it, Will! God damn it!
Pulled up in the warm up, and suddenly he was on the pitch, and then he scored his England debut. He scored on his Premier League.
Champions League debut as well, right?
Champions League debut, but basically all of his debuts, he scored a goal in. For somebody who's still a very young lad, he's seen an awful lot at Man United over the years, and he's still there. And I think what's refreshing about it is that he's looking happier again. He's looking happy with his football against West Ham. He was back to the Rashford of a couple of years ago, where he was running at players, committing players, and I think I think he's timed his return to form well enough to maybe get on that plane for the World Cup.
I was thinking that was going to be my follow-up question, really. Does he get on the plane? I was thinking he has to be on it, really, just as the experience he's got, the experience alone, right?
Yeah, I think partly his experience, but let's think about what it should be, which is his form for England. And there's not many left-sided players, or people who come in from the left playing that well at the moment, and especially with the injury problems that there are currently as well. I think he's got a chance because obviously last season he scored like four league goals in 25 games. This year he's got 4 in 12. He's a lot more involved. He seems a bit happier. So I think hopefully that's enough to get him on the plane. I think in a good World Cup, I think we'll push him along for his club. I think overall, though, it was a very gritty performance by Manchester United. It's a sort of game they would have lost that a year ago, 100%. I think obviously everyone's a little bit anxious with Harry Maguire coming back into the team, but there wasn't really any alternative. Varane was injured. He's out. He's basically out to minimum the start of the World Cup. Lindelof pulled up shortly before the game. And I think he had a bit of a shaky first half, but I think a lot of people criticised Maguire, but he put in some vital clearances and tackles in that second half, because Scamacca and Antonio are a right old handful. And I can see a little bit of relationship building with him and Martinez, because when he was taking a bit of responsibility, going towards a bigger player, challenge him in the air, and I think although I don't think he'll be first choice for United going forward, but I think he still could be an asset to Manchester United. He's still a good player. I think when we're playing a low block and we need to hold on to a lead and slow it down a little bit, I actually think he's quite good for that. And if he regains a bit of form, he's still a good centre back. I think it's worth remembering that nothing's going to make him worth 80 million quid. Nothing's going to make but I think we're well beyond that now. But he can still be a valuable squad player as long as he get used to it. And I think aside from that as well, the transformation of Diogo Dalot, should I say? I mean, I did not think he had a lot of things in his locker, such as defending.
No,
he is, and I think what you're seeing with Ten Hag is improving some of the existing players that are there. Dalot's game's gone, up tenfold in this season. I
think you're seeing a lot of impressive performances from players that you didn't expect it from, or you thought maybe their time was done. And that's what Ten Hag's been there to do, right? You've got to work with what you've got for a good couple of seasons while you improve that squad.
But I think West Ham as well, I think you've got to give them a bit of credit in the second half. They threw the absolute kitchen sink at it. And I think you saw the best of David De Gea. Again, he's another one where earlier this season. I think there was a lot of murmurings online that they should have been dropped. It was a point of just try somebody else at this point after the first couple of games. But to be fair to him, he started to play out the ball. Like, he's not entirely comfortable, but
I still get nervous. Well, I get nervous when he's got the ball at his feet. I'm like, oh, here we go.
But one thing he always is and always will be is an amazing shot stopper. And some of the saves he's put out was incredible. It was interesting. Like, there's been a lot of outrage about the fact he's Spain's sixth choice goalkeeper, but to be fair, Luis Enrique set out his stall well over 18 months ago. He said literally in an interview, I want my goalkeepers to play this way because of this reason and because of how I want my team to set up. And whether you like it or not, David De Gea doesn't fit that.
I don't think it makes any difference for United, really. I don't think. No. Yeah, you want to say that your keeper's an international, but beyond that, I don't think there's much really in it.
Exactly, and I think ultimately, I think what I would like to see this season is for David De Gea to have like a fond farewell. I would love for him to be able to bow out of the club with a trophy or something. Like the FA Cup or something like that, and then maybe bring in like a more modern goalkeeper. But no, I think an on-form De Gea still saves us points. I think the only thing Bruno could potentially have found in that game is I thought Skamaka could have been sent off rather than subbed off, for being honest. Because one of my pet hates is when someone gets a yellow for something quite soft, but then because they want a yellow and commit another foul, they don't get yellow. You know what I mean? It's just one of those, always on a yellow now, so I better make sure it's an actual serious foul before I give another yellow.
He's always got that in his locker, Skamaka. He's always got that little bit of a he's
nasty niggle at him.
Yeah, I think so. But there was a few players for West Ham that impressed me. It's the first time I've actually properly sat and watched Candreva, the German.
He got a little bit lost at PSG, did he?
I thought he had a really good game. I thought he looked really good on the ball. He had a few runs. He looked quite composed. I was like, it's a decent little player there. But for West Ham, it's not a huge loss. Good performance. Going away to Old Trafford is still very difficult, right? I don't think they'll read too much into it. But we need to, because we still haven't talked about this game, and it's probably the biggest shock of the weekend. De Zerbi ball arrived in England, and it arrived right on time. Graham Potter, with very little self-awareness, says, I think, I have nothing to apologise for. The Brighton fans have no reason to boo me. Yes, but when another club tries to buy your club and everything good about your club, it does tend to harness a little bit of negative feeling. I did enjoy Cucurella getting booed every time he got anywhere near the ball. Spoiler alert, he didn't get near the ball often, but when he did, he got booed. And Brighton, this is De Zerbi ball. This is it. When they conceded one, I was a little bit worried they'd then concede another 4, but they didn't. And we saw some exciting players. Mitoma, who we've talked about before, the young Japanese lad, had a great game. And then they just threw on this young Ecuadorian guy, and Cesar, never heard of him, never seen him before in my life. And all of a sudden, I'm in love. What a player. Crazy exciting. Was running past everything Chelsea threw at him, and just an incredible performance from Brighton in general. What a performance. Adam, what did you think of this? I just saw the goals rolling in. They were all own goals, but they still count, right?
Doesn't matter. What they did was exploit what was the weakness of Chelsea, which was they've got no one that can defensively do the duties on the wings. So obviously the likes of Pulisic and Sterling, they do not track back. So it just leaves that defense really exposed. With De Zerbi, the way they play the ball, you could see they were just doing pirouettes past these defenders, and it was Thiago Silva that had to clear it a dozen times off the line. I mean, it was just phenomenal to see Brighton play in that manner. But we have to say, Chelsea were terrible, absolutely awful in this match.
Loftus-Cheek was covering at centre back most of the game. It was
incredible.
Mad.
It was incredible. I was speaking to the Blues Brothers podcast, Charlie, off there, and he was saying about the fact that he went to the match and he was amazed by how poor they were. He knows there's a lot of weaknesses in that Chelsea side. he believes that it's going to be this next window where they may see some changes again.
Okay.
But yeah, Ted Pioli and his theories about
Not like Chelsea to
it's
just throw money at a problem.
Yeah, exactly. But word on Brighton, amazing. And then Sizio, yeah, he's been a player that was been talked up quite a lot. It's taken a little while to get him into that squad, but he is a prospect because he came into the Ecuadorian national side at 17 years old. So he's like a huge prospect for this World Cup. It'll be very interesting to see how he performs on that stage as well. But a lot of high hopes on him. I think he's a gem because I think they only snapped him up for £6 million.
Yeah.
So he's a bargain. Already a bargain.
Yeah. Ecuador are a team that you need to watch at this year's World Cup, people. They are a very, very, very exciting team. That guy was ridiculous. Adam, your thoughts on Andy, your thoughts on Chelsea and Brighton, the game. How much did you enjoy it? I really enjoyed it.
I think everybody enjoyed it, didn't they? I mean, it's one of the most brilliant moments. Grey Potter's gone to the dark side and turned into a Sith Lord. But I think, but the thing with Chelsea, I think, despite the size of Chelsea as a football club, there's still a lot of like square pegs in round holes. You're going to concede 4 goals when you've got Sterling and Pulisic as your wing backs.
Yeah,
they are attackers, not defenders. Play out of position, which I don't understand.
I'm still not even sure I'd classify Pulisic as an attacker at this point. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is.
He's just there. No, to be fair, when he's played, I think in an advanced position, I still think he's quite a good player. I think he just gets punted around too much, left, right, and centre, so he can't really settle. So I think he gets a bit of a harsh rep for that because it's not really his fault. He's played under so many managers who have played him in so many positions.
But none of them like him.
I suppose it's a fair point. So
none of them like him. He never gets a run, no matter who the manager is.
Yeah, I mean Cucurella as well, playing him as like a left-sided centre back. I'm looking at it thinking, actually, for the amount of money that they spent, Cucurella's a left-sided centre back out of position. Thiago Silva is pretty old, and Trevor Chalobah. Is that really a
But Thiago Silva's still their best defender.
Absolutely. Is that really a top 4 quality defence? I don't think it is, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think
this Chelsea. I think Chelsea this year, people are assuming they're going to finish high because it's Chelsea. I think if you look at that squad, it's not that great.
It's not actually.
If they're relying on Aubameyang, which they are, they're bringing him off the bench. I've got bad news, guys. I've got bad news. I think, and that's the thing though. They made some strange transfers as well. I think Dennis Zakaria to come from Juventus. That was almost as strange as the Artemello one to Liverpool. You're like, but why? You've got quite a bit of depth there, and they let Billy Gilmore go, oddly enough, to Brighton. I thought you might have just at least kept him on the bench if that's what you're going to be left with at the moment. Amanda Broja, I think there's a lot of promise when you had that low spot at Southampton. I think there's a lot of potential, but let's be honest, he's still probably 2 or 3 years from development away from becoming a regular Chelsea But he
player.
needs that development.
Yeah, he needs
that development.
It needs game time though. But you're not going to start every week at Chelsea. So
this is the thing, Andy. Chelsea fans do want him on the pitch for whatever reason. He's just not being chosen to play. And I think there's too many midfielders.
I think he is their answer. I think it's right there. I think you have to be patient with him, but if you're patient enough to put up with fucking Alvaro Morata and bloody the curse of the number 9 strikers you've had, you can be patient enough with a young lad. If you know what I mean, I think he should be starting. I think they've got the focal point there, but they insist on playing Kai Havertz.
I mean, to be fair,
as a striker. I don't get it.
Havertz has done all right the past couple of games.
Yeah, but he's not a striker either. He's not a striker.
And that's
they've got the answer.
Full of. Yeah, they're full of players playing in the wrong positions. Put Cucurella back at left wing back, put an actual centre back in. Put Kai Havertz back in.
You think maybe Potter was trying to be a bit too clever going back to Brighton? Do you think he was trying to be like, I'm not just going to beat him, I'm going to flex on him, as the kids say? I'm going to try and embarrass him a bit. Yeah, because it felt like he was overthinking it a bit.
Yeah, I think he's still maybe working out what his best 11 is, because at the end of the day, he has taken over somebody else's team who are used to playing a completely different way. I think same against Manchester United. They were lucky to get a draw out of that ultimately, but they seem they seem a little bit lightweight and easy to get at. And Chelsea weren't always, like that really. Historically, they've always been quite rigid and stubborn, even if they weren't particularly good up front, and that's what's always got them through. So I think Old Ted is going to have to drop at least another couple of £100 million to get the players in that
to buy the rest of Brighton Football Club. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's. I really do like it how he's just come in, been obsessed with Brighton, tried to do everything to buy Brighton, and then the first loss for their manager is to Brighton. It's just too beautiful. Football throws up these moments, and I absolutely love it. But elsewhere this weekend, we do need to move on very quickly. I don't understand what Tottenham Hotspur are. I can't understand it. They are terrible and they win every game. How does it happen? How does it happen? God damn it, Brighton. Bentancur in the 92nd minute to pull them back from 2-0 down. You have to say they are players who are playing for the manager. They obviously are either terrified or love Conte. I think I'm going to go for terrified.
Terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, if I went 2-0 down to Bournemouth, I would be fucking terrified if they back in that dressing room after 90 minutes.
Even imagine. After 2 losses in a row as well, he must have been losing his fucking mind. But they did get the 3-2 win. And elsewhere, Almiron scored again. Of course he did. It was a game of football. Almiron scores and Callum Wilson gets 2 as Aston Villa revert to type, I think it's fair to say. They had their performance.
Does Callum Wilson go on the plane? So I think
he does.
I think he does.
I think he has
as long
to.
as he doesn't get injured. As long as he doesn't get injured. I mean, he's fantastic. Out of the options of Calvert-Lewin, Tony, and him, I'd probably say he's above those other 2.
Calvert-Lewin isn't getting a sniff. I'm sorry. It's not lockdown 2020 anymore. Calvert-Lewin isn't there. He's not that guy.
This is Gareth Southgate. He is loyal to a fault, unfortunately. But I think in terms of an all-round finisher, well, just a straight-up finisher, I think apart from Harry Kane, I think Callum Wilson is definitely one of the best finishers that Gareth Southgate has a collection. I think Tony adds a lot in his overall game in terms of his hold-up play and what he brings to the table overall.
Yeah.
But he drops deep a lot as well.
But at the end of the day, if Harry Kane needs a bit of a rest, he wants to just score an actual goal. A fit Callum Wilson, I think, is a massive asset. Like 6 in 9 this season. It's that's a really, really good return if you're not called Erling Haaland.
And we all know that England need accomplished penalty takers, so get him on the bloody plane. Get him on the plane.
And Tony's a good penalty taker as well. It's Callum Wilson is. So there's actually, I think Calvert-Lewin just needs to sit at home, read Vogue magazine, and watch the World Cup on ITV.
I'm in on that plan. It blows my mind he's still being linked with it a little bit. The people are like, oh, Calvert-Lewin, like, guys, it's not.
He scored one goal
2 seasons ago. It's not 2 seasons. I don't understand why we're still there. But that is the Premier League review, I think. Man City won 1-0. No Haaland.
No one cares.
No,
it was a banger. It was a banger of a goal by.
It was a great goal.
No one cares.
Exactly. It was a great goal, but my God, that game was terrible. I fell asleep. It was awful. Elsewhere, Palace got back to winning ways, beating Southampton 1-0. Brentford versus Wolves 1-1. Oh, God, Wolves are so terrible. And Fulham versus Everton 0-0. I love that they chose that as the late kickoff. I fucking love it. And I was straight away, I was like, this game's going to be terrible.
In fairness, Fulham were trying their best to score goals. But just a resolute Everton and Pickford. Pickford will be on that plane as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Unbelievable keeper. Unbelievable. He always manages to pull it out of the bag somehow, does Jordan. But we're well over time, guys. But we are going to go to our very quick. I'm going to jump to you, Adam. Champions League preview. With which game should we be keeping an eye on this midweek? Some of them matter more than others.
So I'm going to pick 2 and a group to keep your eye on. So we've got Arsenal reserves, otherwise known as Marseille versus Spurs, and Sporting versus Frankfurt even. Because that group is so tight. So Spurs are currently top on this group by 1 point above the likes of Sporting and Frankfurt, and Marseille are 2 points off Spurs. So basically, if Spurs lose then he are knocked out, providing Sporting and Frankfurt somehow don't screw it up in terms of goal difference, etc. So that would be a very interesting one. But one for Wednesday. God,
sorry, I need to see 94th minute Matteo Guendouzi smashing it into the top corner just for the absolute level of shithouse scenes. He'll become an Arsenal legend that moment because he's doing it loudly when he does it. I just need that in my life. I need it. That disallowed Harry Kane goal was fucking hilarious, and I've been watching the videos of the Spurs fans ever since in the stadium. But we can move on. Yeah.
And just quickly, Wednesday, Donetsk versus Leipzig. So whoever wins out of this one goes into the next rounds. Hopefully Donetsk, fingers crossed, because we want to see Mudryk, who is doing fantastically well. Both teams unbeaten. So Donetsk unbeaten in 5, Leipzig unbeaten in 9. So could be a very tasty game in Warsaw. And the other game is Milan versus Salzburg. So Milan just have to make sure they don't lose this match. Otherwise, Salzburg would go above them and qualify for the next stages. So those are the games to look out from my point of view.
Nice. I'm just going to very quickly jump in with Juve having to get something at PSG in order to not go out of Europe completely. Now, I know, look, Maccabi Haifa are going to be playing... I've forgot. They're playing Benfica at home. They're probably going to lose. But if Juve lose worse, which, let's face it, is possible, they could go out of Europe completely. That would be quite funny. Any games for you, Andy, that you're thinking you're going to watch this midweek?
Well, I might just have a cheeky glance to see if Victoria Pleasant make Barcelona's season even more miserable because... I just want them to suffer as much as possible.
I think that's fair.
I think also the potential of Club Brugge topping a group containing Porto, Atletico Madrid, and Leverkusen, who they've got in their last game. I think that is one heck of a story for Belgian football as a whole. I think
they really did decide to concede goals, though. They conceded one, and then they all went in.
And also I think there's also a potential El Sacchio, which between Rangers and Ajax, both having both managers are on the ropes a little bit. A stat came out the other day. I think it's from that European lad who's on Twitter, massive Ajax fan.
He's good saying, very good.
He's good follow because he knows his shit. To be fair to him, I think Ajax have conceded as many goals already in the league as they did in the entirety of last season. I think.
Wow.
I think it's that. I think Schroeder's not making a good impression. I think he's playing quite a few players out of form, out of position. They've taken some absolute poundings. As of Rangers, they haven't played well for a number of weeks, and I think Van Bronckhorst is on dodgy ground at the moment. I think there's a few of them that are driving to Glasgow Airport himself. I think they need. Both those teams need to get, even though there's nothing really riding on it, I think they need to get a result there because, like I said, Rangers have lost too many games, so they're not going to play in any Europa League football. But I think that'll be an interesting one for
a lot on the line in that game. I think you're right. Both managers desperately trying to cling on to those jobs. That could be an interesting one. I've still got a bad feeling for Rangers. I'm sorry. I've just still got a bad feeling for them. But hopefully, they'll get that win that Ibrox wants. Getting one win in the Champions League would feel nice, right? Kind of like Victoria Pilsen. Give them the one win. It's something to go home with, right? It's quite nice. But that is our Champions League preview done. That is us done. And this week, we will actually be back with an episode on Thursday. Life has been a bit crazy at the moment, guys, so we apologize, but please do stick with us. We are working on it. We will be back on Friday, not Thursday. We record on Thursday, guys. I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are going to send you off. Guys, anything to say before we go? And I give the whole follow spiel.
I think the main thing is keep an eye out on our YouTube channel because we will have some World Cup stuff. You're doing some fantastic stuff with some interviews, as is Andy. I'll be joining in that shortly as well. So, just keep an eye on that.
A lot of work going on in the background. It's like a duck. It looks calm on top, and then the legs are going mad underneath, right? There's a lot of work going on in the background. But yes, World Cup is very soon.
I also just want to give a shout out to Neymar and Lucas Moura. I hope you're feeling absolutely miserable as fuck right now, because obviously your favourite right-wing fascist nutjob, Bolsonaro, has been booted out of Brazil. And hopefully the people of Brazil can now wear their jersey without being labelled a fascist. I think that would be a good improvement for a start. So yeah, all round very, very good vibes.
It's the perfect start for the World Cup for Brazil. This is just the start they needed.
Absolutely.
It's going up and up. But guys, thank you for joining us as always. Hit like and subscribe and all the dem tings. And we will find you on Friday. Follow us on Instagram at Italian Anglo Pod. No. Oh, God damn it. It's 3 years. On Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod. On Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. And now we have a YouTube handle at the Anglo-Italian Pod. It's a new thing, but that's the YouTube handle. So, yeah, like, subscribe, and we will see you on Friday. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.